Start recording. Okay. So we are going to get into some deeper dive into some materials. But first, we're gonna go back into Blender, and we're gonna learn how to add materials to different polygons there, so that you can set these what are called material IDs. Then we're gonna dive back into Unreal Engine. I'll kind of pop back and forth between my computers, and we'll see how it all goes. All right. So let us go into Blender first. So we're going to do a new file, and first we're going to bring in some geometry to add materials to. So my favorite Easter egg inside of Blender is under under Add Mesh. This is how you add in planes and spheres and all that kind of stuff. They have a monkey. I like to always bring in the monkey. This monkey, his name is Suzanne. And in fact, the yearly Blender Awards are called the Suzannes. And to further give away my age, does anyone know of any famous monkeys named Suzanne? So that's a pass-fail kind of question. If you don't know, then that's... So, in 1994, there was a glorious movie called Mallrats, and it's by Kevin Smith. I think they rebooted it like a little while ago. And Weezer did the soundtrack to the closing credits as the two heroes walk away with the monkey named Suzanne. All that I need in the world, I'm your child, make me blush, draw me wild. I'm Suzanne, ooh, you're all that I wanted. When I met you, I was all alone. Great stuff, great album. But now, so whenever I bring out Suzanne, I'm just like, Suzanne, you're all that I wanted in a girl. So here she is. And it's a little low poly aesthetic, right? And as we've kind of been showing as we've been stumbling around the Blender interface, is that you have object mode where you're just selecting things in the hierarchy. That's like being in Unreal and selecting different actors. But if I want to edit something, this is what Unreal doesn't really do, is to edit the modes. And here you can see like these vertex points, right? I can look at lines and I can look at polygons, right? So I want to look at polygons, right? Settings. When I mean somebody changed my settings, I mean I changed my settings somehow. Let's see. Orbit around object, yes. Zoom in. There's my mouse broken. Anyway, we could do it, but it's gonna be rough. So I'm going to select some of these polygons. All right, so now I have just selected like the eyes. I know from looking at this before that the eyes are actually not connected to the rest of the body. They're their own separate mesh. So I am going to, if I hit the up arrow, it'll select every single polygon there, and let's focus. There we go. So you can see there it is. I've selected every polygon in that eye. And if I come over here to this eye, let's change our selection mode to circle. And just select a few things here. A few things here, and hold down Shift. A few things there, and now I've selected all the eyes. And I'll start off by first adding in a material for the eyes. So materials are down here. It says material properties. I'm going to create a new node that I'm going to add a material to, and I will call this I have no idea how to spell it, sclera, whatever, however you pronounce the white of the eye. And then it's already white by default. So yay, I've effectively added a white texture to a white object. You guys see that? Anyway, I actually didn't have to assign it first. But let's add in the pupils, right? I'll make another material for the pupils. rename it, and we'll make that black. Alright, I haven't assigned it yet. I just want it on this part. So I'll select this front face, these, and then if you see, there's a little bit of depth there, and I want those to be black as well. So I'll hit the up arrow once, expanding the selection once. And I'll assign that. Alright, so we're just adding what these are called material IDs, or material slots. And so we've now effectively separated out and put two materials on these eye meshes. Right? And then the rest of it's easy because the whole body is one other object. I hit up arrow until I've gotten it all. And let's give Suzanne an initial color of a brown-esque something. And then assign. Right? So this is how you get different different materials onto different objects. Cool. So I'm all set with this. Oh well, you know what? You see those eyeballs? Let's go ahead and fix that. To do that, we're going to go into point mode, and then I'm going to select that point and shift select that point. I have two. Well, these are the vertex points selected. Let's go to the move tool and just give a little eye lift. There we go. Look at us. We're 3D modelers. Any other spot fix we want to do, that's fine, but of course this is a low poly mesh anyway. Let's go ahead and maybe we'll come back to Suzanne another time. So I'll save a Blender file. And then let's export an FBX for Unreal. Also downloads is fine. And the things we're going to do is, we don't really have any textures to pack in there. They're just materials, but it can't hurt to practice saying the copy the textures in. But again, we don't have any textures. And then the one thing I want to do is it gives you not an error, a warning about smoothing groups, and that's fixed by just saying smooth on our faces. And then our FBX ready to go. We don't have an armature animation, so these things don't have to be checked. It's not going to hurt us. You know, just like we don't have any cameras or lamps or anything like that. We're only exporting a mesh, but it's good enough. And we're ready for Unreal. Say goodbye to Blender. And so let's come into Unreal. Assets. We'll make a folder for static meshes. And then let's find out Suzanne. There was two meshes, but I think they were the same. We'll say combined meshes, so we don't have the separate ones for eyes and the body, but I think everything's fine. Again, this is under the advanced properties, so if it by default looks like this. We're not a skeletal mesh, and we're going to generate collisions, that's fine. And then sometimes you have to show advanced, and I said combined meshes, so it's just one mesh. And look how cool that is. We have these three material slots, and they're named exactly what we called them in Blender. You couldn't get more straightforward for creating new materials moving forward. So you can imagine how far you get with this. Inside of this static mesh editor, I can, if I'm not quite sure where things are, I can highlight the different meshes that have these things on them, or I can just isolate it and say, where are those pupils? Oh, there it is. Right? These materials are one-sided. Game engines usually by default render only one side because it doesn't want to double up everything. It's trying to be as fast as possible. That is a property that you can make things two-sided if you can see behind it. All right, so there we are with Suzanne. We're ready to go. But what if we want a fleet of Suzannes and we want to have them all be different colors? If I put a Suzanne in there, when these guys turn around, they're going to be terrified. If we go over here and edit it, so if I want all of them to be blue, I can edit this material here, and then all Suzannes will be blue when I put them into the world. But if I just want one of the Suzannes to be blue, I can come up to Material, And then I have this base color, and I have this parameter, and I would double click on it, and I would say blue, okay, save. Actually, this will change all of them because all of them are referencing this one material. All right, this blue material. But what if I want to make a new, what if I want to have two, and I want to be red, I can just make a new material from scratch, call it M red. It's fine for me for right now. And then if I hold down the 3 button and click, I get 3 color right there. Because we're not dealing with alpha. And I'll make this one, I said it was going to be red. And then we save. Again, it takes some resources. How fast your computer means how fast this material moves. But in general, saving, the Unreal Engine doesn't allocate that many resources to saving quickly. It's not trying to do these dynamically. It's just like work on it, and then apply it and save it later on. We're going to tell the engine to allocate resources to drive it in real time. We want these colors to be able to change at runtime or be able to move them quicker. So we're going to do a thing called, we're going to instance them. First, let's go ahead and make sure that we have 2 different monkeys that we can address, right? So one's blue, one's red, right? If I went back, so we now have done what's called like a material override. There you go. But that wasn't the quickest way of doing things because we'd have to create a new material and make that new material red. But we keep on, all we're doing is changing this one parameter, color. Is there a quicker way to change color? Let us make a new material, and we're going to call this a master material. So M master color, or we'll say main color. Excuse me. Again, with the 3s, holding it down. And this one, we're never going to use this one. It's just our template for all the different all the different materials we're going to make from here on out. All right, so we're never going to use it, so I'm just going to leave it as black. That way, if it goes in, I know I've made a mistake. We're not actually supposed to use this one. And what I want to do is I want to turn this color into a parameter that we can address. That was pupil, Todd. Let's go back to the main. We're going to right-click on this node and say convert to a parameter, and that parameter will be called color. Now, what I want to do is I want to create instances of this main material. So when I come over to my map again, and I right-click on main color, it gives me an option to create a material instance. This is an instance of the material. I might want to call this one, my style guide dictates that I say a material instance is MI underscore, and then I can call this one body red. All right, so I know this is for the body, not for the eyes, and it's going to be red. And now when I double click on it, it has a different interface. This is only exposing my parameters that I want to drive in real time. And the engine has allocated resources towards these parameters so that should I apply it to this fella, he has just the main red color, but I can insert, it says insert use selected asset from content browser, this little arrow, sneak it in there, change it immediately, check it off, and now when I say OK, well, it didn't change because I didn't do that one thing. Over here, look, as I move it, it's changing immediately. Right? So this is what you want to do: is you want to allocate resources towards just parameters you want to drive in real time, and then you can really help you dial in your different settings. And what's cool about this is that as I continue to add more and more parameters, all the instances have these different parameters. Okay, so let's set up the blue Suzanne. I can either just make a copy of body red, or I can create another material instance from the main. Let's just go ahead and make a copy. Duplicate is Control W. I duplicated the monkey. Let's duplicate this material, and I'll call this MI body blue. Not only does it save us time, this also is incredibly resource friendly to have everything come from one main material. So let's make body red be red. And body blue be blue. And again, all happening real time, or it can happen at runtime after we hit the play button. Cool, much quicker. Alright, so you should only have to make edits to your main material only occasionally, and you want to come back and just be working with these instances because it's so much quicker. I'm going to close a couple of these extras. Sure. Sure. Now, what if I want the eyes to glow? Maybe just the white parts of the eyes. I'm going to take this main color. I'll make another instance, and I'll call this body white, or doesn't matter for me. MI body eye white. Some way they're kind of going to group together alphabetically. And then in both of our monkeys, I will make them both eye white. Now they look like Polar Express kids. This is not correct. I made a copy of my main color, not an instance. Let's get rid of that real quick. Sure. Virtual instance. MI body eye white. Alright, so this might seem a little tedious right now, but it's going to open up a lot of stuff for us. Make it white. But what I want to be able to do is change my emissive. And I don't have emissive as a property right now. I want to make that available to all my material instances. So let's prove that we're all back to normal. There we are, but now we have material instances for the scleras. Alright? But I want to get glow in there. I'm going to come back to main color, and I see that I have emissive right here. I want my emissive. I'm going to promote it to a parameter, so it automatically names it. But I actually want to use the same color that I'm using for my body. So I just want to use a single parameter. A constant right here is a single value. This can also be put in here by hitting the 1 button and clicking. Or, I know I want to convert it to a parameter anyway. This is called a scalar parameter. It's one little parameter you scale. I can hold down S, and then it just gives me a scalar parameter. I'm going to call it glow. And then a little shader math. We know that if we don't want to be, we want to multiply the color by the glow value, because we want to stay within 0 and 1. Well, it won't blow out the color. All right, so hold on, M multiply. We can find multiply over here, or we can right click and find multiply here. I like the shortcuts of just holding down M, bring it in, multiply. Multiply. By default, the glow on the emissive channel is a 1. Give it a default value of 1. And if I'm designing for artists, I can give them a minimum and maximum so they can't override it and give me the incorrect values. And then when I save, it might take a second to save my main material. But once it's done that, it's propagated through this scalar parameter to all my instances. So now I have a glow. And now I have a glow right here. And they all have glow. So this instance has a glow value of, there you go. But maybe we don't want the eyes to glow, or something like that. Or sorry, the pupils to glow. So let's make another one for our pupil. MI black. And it has a 0 value of glow. It is the absence of glow. It is completely dead. And we bring that in. So So obviously the eyes were both mapped to the same material instance, but our blue and our red are of different glow values. So the body red can have a slight glow, but the blue doesn't have any at all. Right? So this is just a really powerful way of being thoughtful and coming back, and you continually add your main material. There's the beauty of this is that this is how Quixel is going to work. All of Quixel is based off of one material, mass material that's a geniusly complex mass material. There's some really great examples of this in the wild. Has anyone ever played What Remains of Edith Finch?
Yeah.
So Edith Finch is made by Annapurna Interactive, but more importantly, it was a smaller team called Tiny Sparrow working with them. And there's actually, it's run by a woman named Chelsea. I can't remember her last name. I worked with her 3 years ago. She's an IDM graduate, actually. She graduated in 2012. And she was the technical artist, and she has some great talks about Edith Finch, which won Game of the Year at the Games Conference. And it's set in Portland, Oregon, and it has a cool aesthetic, and it's free to download from the Unreal Engine, the actual project. Not the interactivity, but all the set design is free to download from the Epic Games launcher. And so basically, a woman goes back to her childhood home where a bunch of family members have had tragic deaths, and she revisits, and there's a lot of voiceover and unlocking of doors, and it takes about 6 hours to play. It's super fun. It's quick, and all these sets are available. This is the tower. This is like towards the end of the game when you unlock maybe her room where she lived, or there's these two twins where one dies at a young age and one dies at an older age, but their room is completely divided down the middle. And just interesting assets. It's really interesting to see how somebody can really create great assets. But the entire game is made off of, I think, 3 master materials or main materials. One for props, one for skeletal meshes, and one for anything that has opacity. And again, it's really great for adding in. I didn't double click it. It optimizes the game considerably to all be pulling from this one. It's a thing called pointers, or it's all coming from one thing, but it's just really smart, and it speeds up the level design. So as you go through being an artist, also think about being an engineer. And oftentimes I'm working as technical director, making master materials so that my technical artists have all the parameters exposed, and they don't have to get into actually doing shader math. All right, so this game, I think it's free once a year in Epic Games Launcher. You can download it for free. I think it's like $10. Highly recommend it. That's IDM alums. So it has a cool aesthetic. Like, this is the twins' room. Right, one side it looks one way, the other one it looks the other way. And if I were to select on a prop, like that space helmet, let's see if they can call me a liar. It has 2 materials, and if I double click on it, we'll see that's the instances, and it's there. You can find out what the parent it's referencing is, and this is the master glass, right? Something with opacity. So this is the master glass material. The other one will probably refer back to the master prop material. Yeah, see, you can't really see because it's really tiny, but trust me that it says master prop material. And this is just like some sort of giant thing that has, I'm sure, embedded nodes and stuff like that. That they keep on going back to, and they're like, how can I make this more efficient? So it's important to understand how to navigate not only material instances, but you can reparent them and all this kind of stuff. And you can have different instances and different parameters within your instances. Okay, so that's the idea of blueprints have this as well. It's called inheritance. It's kind of a fundamental property of object-oriented programming. All right. So that's my plug for Edith Finch. Another project I want to open up on my other computer, not my own computer, is this Unreal Engine DMX sample. Let's see if we can find a video of it. Yes. So this is also in the Learn tab. Come back. Learn. this is this DMX previs sample, and it's hooking up this DMX protocol, lighting protocol, to Unreal Engine, which is a technical feat of its own, but it's this entire light show that's in Unreal. That's again sending out corresponding messaging to the lighting control systems, and it can do this in real life. And I just want to point out this sphere. That's the main thing I want to get to. This sphere does cool things in this show, and it's a material parameter. It's a material instance, and you should see all the parameters they expose. And you can totally copy this, bring it into your, migrate into your projects, and do all these fun things with it. You get the idea. You can find the YouTube video, but it's a cool thing. And just I want you to be on the lookout of these as you break down these projects that could be very daunting to take things from the Learn tab and understand what you should be grabbing from them. In this case, as you open up some of these Learn tab projects, let's look at the instancing system and how it refers to a parent system, and you can learn how to build these different material properties, right? So again, this DMX previs sample, you get the whole thing right here. All they're doing is hitting the play button. That's what's in the YouTube video. And if you look for sphere, you'll find it. Old BP sphere. Open it up. And then it's, the other component is, of course, how do you drive those in real time, which we haven't gotten there yet. We'll get there eventually. That's the interactivity of the blueprints. But in this blueprint is just a static mesh that has this material instance on it. And then you can migrate this over to your project and then have fun driving all these different things and making it do fun, random stuff in real time. Cool. So just put that on your radar. Put that on your radar. All right. So what does that have? So as I told you, we now know how to make our own instances. We've looked at Edith. We've made our own master. We made some instances. We looked at that stuff. We've already done Suzanne. So let's just take a look at Quixel. So Quixel has two different offerings for us, both of them being free. This is the Quixel bridge. Quixel bridge is a way of pulling resources and previewing them, downloading them, and sending them to your project. Again, I'm going to sign in. When you sign in, make sure you sign in with your Epic Games login, therefore giving you everything for free. Right? All these other things, these are all diluted. Just go Epic Games, it's free. Have fun with the old two-factor. Misspelled my password. And I do get sick of putting in all this two-factor thing after a while. Let's wait for it. There we go. And let's navigate good old Quixel. Wait, that's not what I want. Is it? I got confused. Sign with Quixel, sign with Epic Games. Where'd you go? There's another one somewhere. There you are. Don't do that. There, it almost got me. There we go. Okay, now I'm in. I think. Okay. Cool. It just upgraded, so 2 days ago. So I'm glad that, we'll see what that does to me. So let's take a look at Quixel. Things are here on the left side. You have 3D assets. You have plants, right? You can put these plants into your foliage systems, ready to go. You have just materials. All of these materials are they're all instances based off of one Quixel master material, which is super cool. Categories like that. You have decals. We haven't got decals yet. Decals like posters or blood splatters or whatever. Things you put little instances of materials someplace. Atlases probably won't get into as much. It's basically the texture maps that you then put into a material. imperfections. Again, this is for like vertex painting, grunge and stuff. And displacements, brushes. These are more about painting things, not as important, or not we're going to get to today. They nicely make collections of stuff. So you can get entire kind of asset packs, right? It's not just one rock, it's all the rocks that belong in a system, or all the forest caverns and all the Roman Colosseums or whatever. You do have, by default, 50 plus metahumans. If you want to get into that, don't recommend it just yet, but we'll get into metahumans eventually. So we have all these assets, and what we do is, like, let's find an asset we want. Let's see, local. So these are ones I've already downloaded. When you look at an asset, you'll have a preview thing over here. The preview lets you look at the different materials that are built into it. Give it a second. I'm doing this locally, and it's just figuring it all out. I can also do a 3D preview. Basically, it's what you'd want to be able to preview an asset before you import it. Oh, it's coming. There we go. So you see, we can choose what resolution we want. Some of these are 8K. There's levels of detail, right? They have different detailed meshes. Sometimes like up to 8 or 9, where you have like something, if you're looking at a building from close up versus if you're looking at a building and it's 2 miles down the road. The engine automatically swaps out those different levels of detail. You can analyze the texture maps whenever it loads up. And then this is already downloaded. It's really easy to figure out how to download it if you haven't already. You go to an asset, find the thing you want, and then you can probably right click. At the top you can say download, or in here, did I already download that one? No, so I can say download. Right, so this brings it from the internet, and it comes down, and then it's in my category. This is small, so it'll be down in no time. So one thing you do need to do, though, is export it. But we need to take a look at the export settings before we do that. If we come down here at the bottom, once we move good old zoom, you see that we can now export, but we should go into settings first. Look at the download settings first. We're going into FPX is fine. So all these things are fine. I'm bringing down every single level of detail. Maybe if I don't really care about that, I can just bring down like some of them. Alright. Like this object itself doesn't have that many. And then you can also bring down the Maya file for all of them, so you can actually just bring it straight into Maya and edit them. And then all those different things, you want them to be JPEGs or PNGs and all that kind of stuff. Those are my download settings. And then I look at my export settings. We're targeting Unreal, but you can do all the different kind of content creation tools and engines here. We are doing engine version 4.26, and then we need to install the plugin. You won't have a location for your plugin when you first install Quixel. You need to find where you installed your engine. By default, it goes into C program files, Epic Games, and then the engine number. I put mine in a separate drive that has more space. So I go Epic Games, 4.26, engine, plugins. I say select folder, and then it'll prompt you and it'll install the plugin. It'll pull it down from the internet and install the plugin. I left the link because it's already installed on my computer. I have a link for how to install the plugin in the syllabus. Yes, setting up Quixel Bridge. They'll tell you to install the plugin. Then you need to choose your project. Default project, I think it's just whatever project's open it will go to, but we'll set up the default project for here. So click here, and I am in my project I mistakenly labeled Spring, and no one stopped me. That's everyone's fault. So I called it, there it was, Spring. And I think I just choose the root. When we migrate content, we select the content folder, but I think I'm just going to choose the root here. I select folder. Oh, look, I need to update the plugin, so hopefully this doesn't destroy everything. I'm sure it's going to destroy everything. The main thing to remember is that when you install to the engine, it's going to bring in this mega scans icon on the toolbar. If it does not, it'll prompt you maybe at the bottom right of the screen to say you have installed new plugins. Do you want to update your settings for them? Go into your plugins and make sure it's enabled. Just type in mega and just make sure it's enabled. And this way you don't have to export FBX and import it Unreal. It's just going to stream it directly over to Unreal. I loved how good those eyes turned out for the glowing. That's awesome. All right. So while that's doing it, what can I do? Let's see. We're almost there. We'll just give it a second. So you can also look at other settings for your exports. And let's look at some of the things I've already downloaded. Any questions so far? I just can't wait to get into material instances. I figured that the internet would be quicker. So while we're here, the other service that Quixel provides, is a thing called Quixel Mixer. Again, it's free. And this is kind of like, it's part of the ecosystem. You can bounce things back and forth for it, but it is a texturing interface. It's like Substance is, where you can paint textures, you can add decals, you can do all that, all that more complicated stuff than what I did, where I just made things green and white and black inside of Blender. You actually bring your model into here and really get in deep with these textures. It has a lot of layering systems. You can layer in grunge and deformations and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the things that I was kind of glossing over in Bridge, like the brushes, displacement, imperfections, and atlases, that's what you're using inside a Quixel Mixer as you want to paint in a little bit of a grunge around the corner of something like that. That all would bounce over to Mixer. I have not used Mixer beyond like one tutorial. It is something you have to learn if you want to use it. But again, this is kind of a Quixel's version of what Photoshop acquired, called Substance Painter, that can help you really make really cool materials. If you have a Creative Cloud license, you can get Substance. Substance used to be free. No, it used to be paid. It's by a company called Algorithmic, but again, Adobe acquired it. It's not part of Creative Cloud? Really funny. I've never opened Substance, so that was very obvious because I have no idea how to use it. Let's go back to Quixel. So close. Let's see if I even have Mixer on this. Fuck you. Okay, let's see. Where is Bridge? Come on, buddy. something. Alright, and our plugin's installed. Sorry about that. Okay, so plugin's installed. We're going to send over a couple of items already downloaded. Let's get some foliage in there. We just have the export button because we changed the default export settings. I can also do it per asset if I want to change things, but let's just do export. It's going to export to my project. Your project has to be open. Otherwise, it'll say port error issue. Alright, so it's bringing over these different levels of detail. It's bringing over the different textures, and the whole cavalcade is here. So again, you will be inundated with a bunch of texture files and stuff like that. Cool, so we have the grass. Let's bring over some materials. Let's see, we have, those are called surfaces. Let's bring over just a couple of things right there. Export all three. Alright. And be prepared for all the inundation of all these textures and materials. So now you have on your in your project, you'll have a folder in your root folder called Megascans, and it categorizes them just like it is inside of the Megascan or the Quixel bridge. So I brought over a 3D plant, which is in the folder 3D plant, and I have three materials called surfaces. Nice. Okay. And inside my surfaces, you can see that there's the materials and the textures for all of them. If I have time, I like to take my surfaces and bring the material up to the kind of surface root. So I'm going to say move and move, move, and I think that's, what is that? There we go. So that way you can see all your surfaces together next to each other. If you want to get the textures, you can do that a little bit later on. I'm not going to save now. That's going to blow things up. So these are all material instances. If I were to bring out some of this geometry from my starter content, like my architecture, we could take them for a spin. This one, that guy, and that guy. And then let's open them up. So if I go over to this one, open it up. Here's the instance. And it has tons and tons and tons of crashing Unreal Engines. There we go. I don't know where to put zoom. Alright, so some of the important things, get in here, obviously you can change textures and that kind of stuff. One of the most important ones, I think, is to get into the UV mapping. Tiling offset. This is kind of like your scale. The tiling is how the multiplier, how big the scale is, and then offset is how it's mapped on X and Y. To show you scale, right? More repeating, or it just fits kind of like this. So that's probably one of the most important settings that I use the most. And then offset is if you want to kind of move it to the side or move it up a little bit. Right? So that's really important for making things match your mesh. mesh scale. Right. So, as to taste, but there's tons of settings here. Feel free to play around with them, and just to kind of prove, they all come back down to this Megascan's default material. That is like, trust me, they have it nice and tidy. It's a world of hurt to get into here. It's a lot of fun. These are all functions that you can open up, and they do other things and stuff. So. Again, you can steal all these components. In fact, that UV tiling thing, I steal it all the time. Actually, like we don't have a material that we could do, but so let's go over here to this board. Let's make a new material. Assets for materials, and then make another material, call it M texture, and let's put a texture in here. I held down T, did that. You're gonna be a jerk. Let's just toss in a texture. Okay. So now if we go back to, let's close some of these windows. To Megascans, we also have this MS presets. And they have some default functions, and that's called material function tiling. If I take my texture here, throw in material function tiling, I now have these parameters exposed. And I use it all the time. So we're just stealing all their functions. So let's go back over to my materials. Make a material instance of it. Material instance, tiling, texture, whatever. And now we'll see that I actually have that available now in the material I just made. So we're just stealing functions from Quixel. And you can make your own functions. Let's close some things. And let's kind of finish up the lesson here. What does this do? So one thing we could do is I'm going to go back to my surfaces, and I'm going to select 3 of them. And I can actually say create a blend material. And it's just put it in this blend material folder up here. I can put it anywhere I want to. And I now have a material that the reason why I didn't show you how to do different layers for your landscape, so you can like draw sand and rocks and whatever, because this is actually the best way of doing it. This now you can vertex paint this on your meshes, and we've created a blend using Quixel. You do need to have something that has a lot of vertex points, so I'm not quite sure this block will have it, but maybe if we want to grab a Suzanne, should go back into our static meshes, grab the poor monkey, and then put our material blend here. It starts off with whatever was the first material I selected. Again, these are all instances. I can open this up. It's huge because it's all 3 materials lined up all at once. But I can scale each individual one. And then I haven't done this in a while, but I think if I go to mesh painting, RB2 channels. No, I should have practiced one. I haven't done this one forever. Paint color. There's something I need to do to load this in. Vertex color, select the mesh, use color view mode. Off. Weights. textures. Maybe that's what it is.
I think this is the normal landscape tool, because I used something before.
Oh, it's that one? Thanks. So it's over here in Paint.
Yeah, I think it's layers.
Let's see. Anyway, I can always update and get that later. It's something I haven't done forever, but yep. We're not sculpting, we're painting. Tool strength, you'll be able to choose whether it's... No, this is... I'll find it. We've done plenty today with mega scans, but you can do it. There's like one button I'm missing. Don't know why it disappeared. That's crazy. Oh, it's letting you see the vertex points. Texture 2, texture 3, visualization. I'll come back. Select, apply. I'm bored. Alright. Time to finish up. So, anyway, so now you can always bring in all your mega scan stuff, your plants. You can paint them in. You have all sorts of lemongrass. Whatever you need to. Really design your vignette. And you can throw in a camera. So I'm going to do a sequencer first. So over the top center we see cinematics. I'm going to add a level sequence. I'll make a folder in my root for sequences. We'll call this one Week 4. And now you have a timeline. It's very similar to any nonlinear editor you'd have. And maybe we want to get some action over here. We don't really have much of a scenic design here, but we definitely have a lot of action going on. And I'll slow down my camera. And we can do two things. I can frame it up, and then I can deposit a camera. So you just like create a camera here, which is super awesome. Alright, so I just move around, and wherever I go, I've added cameras. So this is a good way of like framing things up and just creating a bunch. Use a Cine camera, because that's the more advanced camera that has like depth of field and stuff. Alright, so now I'm just dropping a bunch of cameras. Or just hit the camera button right here in your sequencer. Create a new camera. Set as a camera. And what that does is not only does it load the camera into my sequencer, but it selects it as the one that we're using. This camera cuts, think of that as where you're slicing which camera you're using, like you would do in Premiere or whatever. You're choosing between different cameras and their camera cuts. I can load in all the other ones. Oops. And then maybe a little bit further on, I want to start using another camera, and so it makes a little cut. You have to lock in the viewport, and then you can watch that change. Alright, so now you can make all these different camera cuts. And you get a little sequence. Alright, here's the different previs angles. And the only other thing I think we want to look at is, obviously you can move the cameras. You can add keyframes to cameras and move them here. So maybe this first camera is this cinema camera. It has a thing called a transform. A transform is just a location, rotation, and scale. Just say starts here. I can lock into this one. At the top left you see it says it's piloting it. Go to at the end of the section, and as I WASD around, I can add in keyframes. Eject out of it, go back to my master camera. So now we're doing camera moves. Cut. Cut. Now we're making movies.
Does the camera stay in the scene? Like in the
It's invisible. It's if I hold down the G button, I turn off game mode, and you can see what it's actually going to look like. It's way deleting your widgets temporarily so they don't clutter up your scene. You can make it a static mesh and put it into your project if you wanted to. So the other thing is that you have this your sequences in your project. I usually make a folder to put at the very top, like a 00 sequences, and that way I always know where to find it. And you just need to make sure that it's always playing. So now when I hit play, it's playing. Cool. The timeline is set to, I think, 150 frames per second at 30 frames per second. So we have a 5-second animation. Obviously I can drag these things out and make them last longer and move around. Right? It's just like a nonlinear editor. So it's this camera cuts track. Is it my head? Yeah, so this camera cuts track is what decides what your cameras are. When I generated a camera from up here, it just automatically spawned one exactly in my viewport and added it to the camera cuts. If you don't do it that way, you might end up with a scene with cameras that are animating and you can look in, right? I can look in it, but I can't select it. If I hit play, there's no camera cuts and it doesn't know what to choose from. So you can add in a track called a camera cuts track. It by default goes to the very top. I like to change my sequencer so I can't scrub outside of 0 in the end, right? So keep my cursor in playback range. That way I can slam it back, get into frame 0, and then add in a camera for, let's see which one was the camera actor. So this is my one with the movement. Lock in there. The thing that I always forget to remember is like to lock it and lock it out. Right. So when this one ends, I want to bring in the other camera. So when I add another camera, it's going to overlap from this point to the very end with the next camera.
You have like multiple of this track and like feels more like it's like a regular video editor. Instead of like you can cut and drag and move and stuff like that.
You mean like move the thing around?
Yeah, I guess I just like maybe just like do an insert so you're not like replacing the rest of the clip like you said it did before.
All right, let's see what happens if I have just right here, and I add another camera. This one. It looked like it fit into that spot right there.
So
Yeah.
You just cut out and then,
Yeah. It has probably different settings that I could change for how oh, I can blend now. I've never seen it do blending. Prove it. Oh, it did it spatially. That's cool. So it wasn't a crossfade. It was a. That's pretty interesting. That's going to add some cool effects. Anyway, so the last kind of component of this is that I'll save it all in a second. You can save just the sequencer for right now. And then for this most simple setting, let's just say render the movie. I would recommend doing a PNG sequence or JPEG sequence if you know how to deal with stitching those back together. But you can just do on a PC a video AVI. We don't have audio in our scene. Game engines expand to whatever screen you have, so it's infinitely scalable. So you can do a 4K video. It'll do an offline render. It'll just take a little bit more time per frame to render it out instead of being in real time. And then just tell it where you want it to go. And then hit capture movie, and then it'll kind of hit play on its own and capture it out as a movie or an image sequence. And this is the old way of rendering movies, but it's the most straightforward, right? That's 3 buttons. You open it up, you choose the format, you put it where do you want it to go. There's a more advanced one that does like insane cool things that's brand new, and we'll get into that later on. It's going to make me save. Let's see. Yeah. Oh well, might as well. That'll take a little while. So that's, let me take a look at the list. Yep. So we have camera cuts. We have autoplay. We have sequencer. The one last thing is you might want to have. This is probably fine for right now. I could do the later on, but you can actually add these characters to the sequencer and have them animate at certain specific times. We'll do that another time. We've already done way too long of a demo for today as it is. So let's go ahead and save, and then I'll cut off the recording. Any other questions while we have it open? The assignment this week is really just to, again, use your set dressings. Really think about be conceptual about where you're putting things up. Put in your characters, put in your animations, and render it out in a video. All right, so we covered all that. Beautiful. So let's just take a look at some of the homeworks from the last